operating not in the domestic context only, but also in the international context. Means its operations are across the boundaries of the country. So, and success of the firm no more is reliant on how we are operating in the domestic context. It is more so also on how we operate in the global context. So we could be having a presence in India, we could be having a presence in different parts of Europe, in different parts of USA, and it therefore our success depends upon how we are able to work on a global context. Now, therefore, when we are operating in a global context, we need to coordinate with distributors who are spread across the globe, coordinate with suppliers. We have component suppliers who are placed in far-flung countries. Then even our customers no more are in India only. They are customers in different parts of the world. So the firm needs now to operate on a global scale, and since they are operating on a global scale, the cost of a wrong decision is going to have far-reaching effects. Similarly, on the other hand, the cost of a right decision will give you a lot of profits. So it is and what kind of decision you take is dependent upon what kind of information you are able to access, what kind of information you are able to churn, what kind of information technology you're using, what kind of analytical tools that you're using. So therefore it's necessary to understand that technology role is increasing day by day. We had also taken a reference of global production network, wherein sometimes we put a manufacturing base in one country because of low labor cost, because of benefits given in that particular state in the particular country, and but we manufacture for the rest of the world. Like Hyundai has a 50-50 strategy, means 50% of the total volume of the production is for India, and the remaining 50% is for distribution across the globe. Now, like it sells to customers in Europe. Now, why it does so is because it finds the cost of manufacturing in India. Its cost of manufacturing in India is much lower as compared to the cost of manufacturing in Europe. And even when it is exporting its assembled units, the import duty on assembled units is very high. So even when it is exporting as a fully assembled unit to European countries, despite paying a very high import duty, still it works out to be cheaper to manufacture in India, add that import duty, and then sell in the European context, vis-a-vis manufacturing in Europe. So then again, we have instances of Maruti following a similar strategy. Though Maruti, basic concentration of Suzuki Maruti India Limited is that they want to focus on India. India is the base. But beyond that, today the basic setup is they are manufacturing for the Indian context, for Indian customers, but then a small proportion is being exported. Like Baleno was exported to Japan. Japan is the mother country of Suzuki, but they are manufacturing in India and selling to Japan because of low labor cost here. And now and also to Europe, and they will be exporting now to 100 other countries. This is the concept of global production network, where we set up a manufacturing base in one country, but we try to sell it across the globe. Now, today we are operating in an open and unprotected global markets. There's stiff competition, so we need to tread very carefully, very cautiously, and we need to depend on the information that we're able to churn, and the information that we are able to assimilate is dependent upon the communication tools, the analytical tools, the IT tools that we use. So organizations today require powerful information system to operate in a global context. So our reliance on technology has increased. So this is one major change. Today organizations are no more operating in a domestic context only, it is operating on a global level. The second change is the transformation of industrial economy. We rush through it again. Even the developed countries like USA, They were first an agro-based economy. Gradually, they shifted to their focus became industry. They became an industrialized economy, and then they are a service-based economy today. India also followed the same pattern. Initially, it was agro-based economy, and 70% of your income was coming from agricultural sector. Then it moved to development of the industries in the early 50s and so on. It became an industrial economy, and today they have shifted to becoming a service-based economy. Service-based economy is one where the primary activity is making provision for services and not the production of goods. In an industrialized economy, focus is on production of goods. Today, focus is on making provision of services. So today, people no more work in farms and factories. You'll hardly find people moving to farms of agriculture or to the factory, but they are working in banks, insurance companies, hotels, hospitality, dwelling, estate sector. So these are the examples of service sector. It could be retail, healthcare, hospitality, housing and dwelling, travel and tour, nursing, education and teaching, transportation, entertainment and recreation, hospitality, social work, media communication, electricity, gas, power, water supply, and so on. So these are instances or examples of what we call a service economy. Even the contribution made by the service economy sector is very high, and it is gradually increasing. Currently, it is 54%. It is 54%. So you see the contribution to GDP in 2016, it was 47.75. Moved to 47.89 and moved to 47.89, 47.88. While in the agriculture, it was decreasing. In 2016, it was 16.36. 2018, it is 15.41 and gradually decreasing. So the contribution made by the service sector to the gross value added is also increasing. We have more people now working in the service sector. Now you can see that the service sector is growing day by day. Service sector accounts for 54.77% of your total gross value added, resulting in 183.43 lakh crores of Indian rupees. Industry accounts for 27.48 and agricultural contribution of agriculture is 17.76. So service sector is gradually growing. In the service sector, we work with information, we generate information, we create new information. So service sector work with information, they work with knowledge, they distribute knowledge, and also they create new knowledge. So you churn some information, you use that information to take a decision. It gives you it gives you new information. So it's a kind of a iterative process. You go on using that information, processing information, get new information. Again, you take a decision. Certain steps are taken on that accord, and then it creates again new information. So this sector work with knowledge, distribute knowledge, and create new knowledge. In a knowledge-based economy, information technology and systems become important. An important investment decision for such sector is how much investment you're making in technology. So an important investment decision is investment in information technology, as quality decisions would depend upon the systems you deploy. Therefore, as we now work in a service economy, our reliance on technology has increased. So the service sector relies more on the use of information technology. Now coming to the third change which has come about, which is very important, is transformation of the enterprise. Now the business enterprise, the way they used to operate, they themselves have changed. The nature of management, how you used to manage the organization has changed. When we talk of management, which I think you have done in concepts of management, it talks about planning, organizing, coordinating and control. Planning, what you want to do, organizing, arranging for the things that you need in order to execute it, coordinating all these elements, executing it, and finally controlling it, ensuring that what you had in plan, actually you have been able to achieve that or not. What you had in mind, whether you have been able to achieve that or not. So how we plan, then what happens? So we plan, we organize, we actuate and control. But how we plan, we organize, we actuate and control or coordinate and control has changed. And all these things we do in order to create value for the organization. So how exactly we create value has also changed. So how we plan, how we organize, how we coordinate and control has changed. How we create value has also changed. Has also changed. So the way an organization creates value has transformed. Information technology has transformed the way an organization creates value. Information technology has transformed the way managers decide. The way managers decide. Why is it? Because there is a total change in the way the organization is working. Traditional organization believed in a hierarchical structure or top-down structure. In a hierarchical structure, we have one boss, two others report to him, again two others report, they are at the third level, another a couple of them report. So it's a long hierarchical structure, a tall structure, we call it a very tall structure. So the decision maker is one at the top, he has two or three people reporting to him, then that's the second level. At the third level, again three or four people report to the second level, and it's a tall structure. The steps go on like this, what we call a long chain of command. It's a long chain of command. They have a fixed set of standard operating procedures. So they have certain rules. This is how you have to operate. There is no flexibility in that. So there is strictly defined rules you have to follow, strictly defined procedures that you have to follow, strictly defined methodology that you have to follow in order to execute a work. So that's also defined and very strictly laid down. There are strict timings. You come at 8, you leave at 5 o'clock in the evening. So there are strict rules that you have got to follow. Then they produce mass-produced items. The same item in large quantity. Basic purpose is to reduce the per unit cost. So large number of units we produce. The basic focus being to lower down the cost, to reduce the cost per unit cost. PUC, per unit cost. So traditionally, organization followed a long change of command. They were hierarchical. There was long change of command. So there were many levels existing in an organization. They had fixed method of doing a work. Strictly, they had to follow fixed set of standard operating procedures, fixed rules to follow. The items were the same commodity that you produce. It's to deliver mass-produced products or services in large quantity. You would produce the same item which everybody has to take. Which we say Ford said that when he started manufacturing cars, he said you can have any vehicle as long as it's black. So he gave only one color also. He was so fixed in the norm to follow, or strict guidelines, or custom what you call mass produced items. If they would be cars, they would only be black cars. So you can have any vehicle, any car, as long as it is black. So that's the term we often quote in order to say that it is the same item that we are going to give you. No differentiated product, no customized products, no products according to your requirements. But it is one standard item that we would give you, one standard product that we would serve you. Then traditionally organizations were also centralized, like we said, one decision making at the single hand at the top. They're structured or fixed method, no flexibility. They focused on specialists, so every person would do the same work. There were strict division of labor. If there is some work has to be done, you're the one who would be laying bricks. You're the one who will be doing something else. So there was strict division of labor, and a person would do the same work repeatedly. So the focus wasn't specialist. The basic focus was to create specialists, not generalists, but specialists. So you would do the same work repeatedly till you become specialized in executing that work. So we call it specialist. So if I'm laying bricks, I will go on only laying bricks. That's the movement I will do, and I will go on doing the same work. There are formal plans. So if there are any plans made, they are written down, and there's nothing informal about it. You have to follow it very strictly. There are formal plans laid down, formal rules to be followed. So they are laid down, they are written down, and you have to follow these plans and rules. Like we said, come at 8 and leave at 5. No flexibility of that you can come little late, you can work from home, nothing like that. So there are strict rules, formal plans and rules laid down, and you have to adhere to it strictly. There is rigid division of work, division of labor. So if you're doing one work, you will do the same work. You're doing the one work, you will do the same work. No other work you'll be given to. And there is focus on loyalty. So organization were very loyal to their boss. They were in the organizations, employees were very loyal to their own boss. They were very loyal to whomever they were reporting to. So these were the features of traditional organization. They were hierarchical, that there was long chain of command. They had fixed set of standard operating procedures, mass-produced units, centralized decision making, structured method of working, no flexibility. Focus was on developing specialists. There were formal and strict rules and plans to be followed. There was strict division of labor and loyalty also was to its boss or the person you were reporting to. Today, organizations are different. There is no more tall structure, hierarchical structure. We have flatter structure. So there are no more 10 or 12 levels. There may be just 3 or 4 levels. There are 3 or 4 levels. So there is less hierarchy. The benefit from this is that there will be better coordination. There will be better coordination and you will have access to the top management. Your voice will be heard. You can communicate with them and relate your problems. We had a centralized decision making where decision was made by the central person. So if you're at the 8th level in organization, then in order to take a decision, you have to report to the 7th level. 7th level communicates that message to the 6th, 6th to the 5th, 5th to the 4th, till it reaches the topmost, and the topmost decision maker, the top head, decides. And then in the same form, when he decides, it flows to the 2nd level, which flows back to the 3rd level, 4th level. And this is how the communication pattern works. So there were strict centralization. Today, you are giving autonomy. So you're letting people, managers decide on their own. So there's a more decentralized system which is working because now organizations cannot afford to be centralized also. So you have manufacturing placed somewhere, marketing being done somewhere. So you have created heads, marketing head, manufacturing head, who will independently take decision rather than rely on the boss, on the person above him to take a decision. Specialists, there was strict division of labor. Each person would do the same work, but today we have flexible arrangement of generalists. We focus not on creating specialists, but on creating generalists. So if you're doing one work today, you can be asked to do some other kind of work tomorrow. So the focus has shifted from being specialists to generalists. No more we are producing the same good, like you can have any vehicle as long as it is black. Today we have multiple color options. So we are making more customized goods. Sometimes we are asking the customer, what is it that you want? And designing the product accordingly. So you are making more and more of customized goods. And that is more and more of customized goods. So this is what has changed. From a tall structure, we have a flatter structure. From a centralization, we have moved to decentralization because you're operating across the globe. So you have to delegate work to others. You cannot closely supervise anymore. So from there has emerged a decentralized system of working. Then we have specialists initially. Now we are focusing on creating generalists. And earlier we had the same item being produced, mass customized goods. Today we have customization for different markets, customization for different countries, and also customization for one. Customization for one. So we also talk about customization for one. That is for individual customers also. We will design goods. Like I think we took in case of Dell. Dell, what they were doing is customization for individual customers. So individual customers would say that I want a Intel motherboard, I want Logitech keyboard, and he would get a monitor of Dell itself because their monitors are better. So you are customizing your manufacturing good as per the requirement of individual customers. So we call it customization for one. We call it customization for one. So, and even the new manager operates on a different way. He relies on informal commitments. There is no more formal rules which is written down and communicated. It could be informal commitments. I tell you, okay, you do this, and he will do it. So there is informal commitment. He creates network of people depending upon the goal you want to achieve. So depending upon the task in hand, new task, I can call somebody from finance, two people from marketing, two others from sales, one from manufacturing is enough, and create a team who will execute the work. So depending upon the tasks at hand, a network of people would be created, networks would be created. They would give the task to them, maybe pulling two people from sales, two from marketing, one from manufacturing, and one from finance, and they form a team to, accomplish the task. And once the task is accomplished, the team disintegrates. So here there is no more fixed work. There is no fixed rules that you're following. There could be informal commitments. There could be informal groups created, informal networks created with a goal in mind. So it's a flexible arrangement of teams and individuals working in a task force. Depending upon the task in hand, we pull in two from marketing, two from sales, one to tell you about the specification of manufacturing, and one from finance. And you can have task force created, and once the you can have such task force created, and once the work is accomplished once the work is accomplished, then the team also disintegrates. The team totally disintegrates. So this is the team disintegrates. So now we need flexible arrangement of teams. They are not fixed teams. You're reporting only to finance. You can report to anybody. A new project manager or task manager is created. Under him, you are reporting now. So the manufacturer manager can report to the task manager or the project manager that I have created. So we have new teams created. Now there'll be flexible people. Flexible people means the same person can work in different places. So we have flexible. The focus now is not on specialists, that you will do only the same kind of work. The focus is on not on specialists but on generalists. So you can do multiple kind of work. Today you are here, tomorrow you'll be in some other department. Third time you're working in somewhere else. So this is what we call multi-skilling. So we have flexible people. The focus is on flexible people. The focus is on flexible machines. The focus is on flexi timing. So they're not fixed timing that you have to come at 8 and leave at 5. Flexi timing, you come and go as you wish. Of course, there would be a core time, like say from 10 to 2, you have to be there in the organization. Beyond that, it's flexi time. You may come at any time and go at any time. So there's a core time during which maybe you need to be there. So with the focus is on flexible people, the focus is on flexible machines, the focus is on flexi timing, the focus is on flexible plants. Even plants are flexible. Now when we say flexible people, it means the same person can be put into different departments. He can execute different kind of work. When we say flexible machine, the same machine can churn out different products. Flexi timing, I think that's understandable. Come and go at any time. Apart from a core time, say 3 hours, 10 to 1, you have to be there in the organization. Flexible plants, even plants are flexible. They are churning out different kinds of products. And when we have such a setup, our reliance on information technology, our reliance on technology that we use in an organization increases. So these are the changes which have taken place. We waited from tall structure, long chain of command. Now we don't have a long chain of command, just a flatter structure, 3 or 4 levels. Tall chain of command had maybe 9 levels, 12 levels. But a flatter structure has just 3 or 4 levels. Centralization, wherein every decision was taken by the top head, and you had to wait. From the 10th, you go to 9th, 9th to 8th, 8th to 7th, and that way the information will flow till it reaches the top man, and it is he who decides. So there's a lot of time delay. Now in a decentralized setup, you delegate work, you delegate decision-making power also to, others. Now specialists, one person can do only one kind of work, but now we have generalists. Focus has shifted to generalists, which means we are not asking him to do one kind of work. He will he will be doing n number of work, different kinds of work, and that is achieved through job rotation. Today he's in the stores, today he's in the stores issuing raw material. Tomorrow he's on the assembly line, helping to manufacture goods. Third day he's in the repairs room where he's helping and learning how to repair certain equipments and machines. So this flexible people is because of job rotation. We call it multi-skilling. Now mass produced means it's the same unit that you will produce, same item which is to be produced and not customized for individual markets, customized for individual customer groups. You will not be customizing your products. So there will be only single product. Like we said, Ford said you can have any vehicle, any car, as long as it is black. So that was the level of standardization. That was the level of standardization. So if you talk of cycles and you can recall, maybe you've seen in your childhood, they would be sturdy black uh, large cycles. So there was all standard cycles, standardized items, all in black color, large, height was quite raised, large cycles, one standard size and one standard color. They were standard bikes basically for the office goers. Now you talk of cycles, there's so many variants you find, so many variants you find. There is cycles for different age groups. There are cycles for those there are cycles for toddlers. There are cycles for the teenage group. There are racing bikes, and there are so many kinds. So even a simple item like a cycle, it is coming into so many variants. That is, you're customizing your cycles for the different age groups, for the toddlers, for the infants, for the teenage group, ladybird for the ladies. They are different. And so for the office goers, they are very sturdy, low priced black cycles. There was no element of customization in cycles then. So we had mass customized, mass produced to customized goods. Now coming to informal commitments, you can just tell somebody, okay, form a group, get this work done, okay. So, and that was flexi teams created, so you don't have strict reporting relationship like this is my boss, this is my boss forever. Today we have bosses which change every day, so loyalty is at its brink. We don't have to be we don't report to the same person for years now. We report to different people, so our loyalty also shifts, so there were informal commitments, network of established goals, flexible arrangement of teams and individuals working in a task force. As and when needed, you would create teams, you would create a network of people, two from marketing, two from sales, one from manufacturing, one from finance. So that makes it six and a project manager. The seven of you create a team, you execute the task. Once the work is over, once the task is over, the team disintegrates. So networks emerge with the objective in mind, with the task in mind, and once the task is executed, the network of people disintegrate. They move back to their own organization. So as long as I'm part of this network, I'm loyal to my boss. The moment my network disintegrates and I shift to some other task, there is a new boss. I report to him, and my loyalty then is with him. So these these network of people get created with a task in mind to accomplish a certain task. And once the task is accomplished, it is done, the team also disintegrates. So as long as I was a member of this task group, network group, I was reporting to my boss X and I was loyal to him. Now the team has integrated, I'm into another group and I reporting to a boss Y. My loyalty currently is to my boss Y. So there is loyalty is also at its brink. We have flexible people, flexible machines, flexible timing, and even flexible plan. Flexible people means one person can do different kinds of work. So we call them flexible. Flexi machines, the same machine can be put to use to churn different products. Flexi timing, there's no strict timing that you have to come at 9 and leave at 5. There is flexi time, you can come at 10 o'clock, you can leave at maybe 4, leave at 3. However, there's a core time, maybe 10 to 2 or 10 to 1 o'clock. You have to be there in the organization. Rest is you can work from home. As long as you execute the task, we are not concerned when you come, when you go. Then we have, okay. And when we work in such a setup, our reliance on technology increases. Our reliance on technology increases. So we have two people from marketing, from sales, and the manufacturing manager is in the plant. He's placed somewhere else. We need to work on a project which involves him. So we need technology to enable us to communicate with him. So our reliance on technology in such a setup, our reliance on technology in such a setup increases. So we take an example of issuing material from the store in a plant. When we are working, the plant, in order to manufacture goods, needs raw materials. It gets these raw materials from the stores. The store or the warehouse, let's say store, the store has within your plant has all the raw material. So there is a man at the store, say stores manager, who in fact uh, issues material from the store. Now, what happens if the store manager does not come? Does not mean that raw material will not be issued and no production will take place. Production has got to go on. Uh, so, what do you do? In such a situation, we cannot totally, if the store's manager is absent for 3 days, does not mean that production will not carry on for 3 days. I think we stop here. We can carry on from here to take up the issue of how we solve this problem. I think